Welcome to the How to Heal podcast, the show where we explore real life stories and practical tools to thrive. I'm your host, Lindsay Richter, and through over a 15-year journey of all things healing, I'm here to hook it up. If you're feeling overwhelmed, looking for a deeper connection, or straight up in a psycho-spiritual crisis, I got you covered. Let's unearth your unique elixir to purpose, peace, and progress. Here we go. Welcome. I was in London last week. It was amazing. We had a really, really good time. Two really good dinners. One at Humo, which was this Michelin star open fire concept where we sat at a bar in front of like a fire and ate all this delicious food. And it was a very sexy restaurant. Like just in front, I love a fire. I love a good fire, bonfire, fireplace. I'm down for it all. My daughter's fire sign, little Sagittarius, love it. I love a fire. So I just felt very like in my element, very engaged, loved it. Food was amazing. And then the other restaurant that we ate at was Gymkhana, which was so dope, so delicious. And yeah. And on the plane ride home, I bit the bullet because my husband started watching The Substance, and I was like, fine, I'll watch The Substance. So if you haven't watched The Substance, it's like a satire slash gore slash, it felt like David Lynch, Elephant Man vibe type weird movie, which I really appreciated. But it was also like a psychological thriller, which you really need a strong stomach for. And every time I watch a movie, I'm so inspired. Like if it's like a really good movie, I'm like so enveloped in it. I'm thinking on all the levels. So I'm just thinking that maybe I'll start doing not movie reviews, but movie analysis based on like the real human experience, not just like a critic type analysis, like a real life type of analysis, because I think that movies just inspire me so deeply. So anyway, if you didn't see The Substance, watch it or don't, whatever. Um, it was ridiculous. And Demi Moore, I'm like very proud of her that she took that role. I thought that that was cool. So, and I say that because I always have been said to look like Demi Moore. So it's like, I'm proud of myself. JK, LOL. So I think what we're talking about in this episode, we're talking about emotional energetics, and we're talking about emotional maturity, mental resilience, and physical groundedness, right? So we're in the third part of this 6 weeks bracket of overall wellness. And let's just take it for what it is. We're talking about emotional maturity. And when you understand these concepts, we'll talk about spirituality next week. But I'm going to mention some of this in this week's episode because I think that it really does take an emotional maturation and a mental resilience and physical groundedness to really embody the human experience and what is actually going on in our personal consciousness is. And just to bring it back, I was thinking about this analogy of like an engine, our ecosystem. The ecosystem of the human body is an engine, and it takes a moment to really rev up, function optimally, go in the correct direction, and be this like brilliant Porsche or whatever car that you love, that you want it to be. And sometimes the engine is running behind the scenes, and we get away with more than we should. But we're working on a GIMP. We're working on a gimpy leg. And that gimpy leg may not be visible to even us for quite some time until the engine breaks down. And we must consistently comb. And address the things we know we should, because again, it will derail the whole train. Physical and mental are like the inspection and the registration, and emotional and spiritual are like getting it washed and garaging it. Like we it will be worth more in the end if we are taking care of it on all levels. Our body works in the same way. We have to do the right things, guys. We have to do the right thing. And I'm not saying there's no time for breaks, there are, but we have to consistently be combing our machine, our engine, our vehicle, our body for inconsistencies, for limps, for gimps. So, just as a starter point to bring us back to ground zero, that's where we are. But like, you don't know where to start emotionally. You don't know where to start emotionally. So it's like, hey, I'm taking care of all the things. This is where, and if you didn't listen to the interview with Amy, which I'm sure you did, got so many views, and Amy is absolutely amazing. But we talk about sitting down and journaling. And one of the points I mentioned was you can't get to the emotional, energetic, to the consensus of, yes, I need to heal emotionally, energetically, whatever, et cetera, until like you really sit down and like contemplate and do um the exercises of I sit down, I write. Oh my God, I have nothing to write. I'm so boring. I have no life. I have no independent thoughts. I whatever it is, like you just have to go there and you have to hit the dead end. I also love voice memoing. I think voice memoing is a really easy way to emote, and then also to capture what's in your head. If your handwriting is poor, if you have carpal tunnel after pregnancy, hello me. I write through that anyway, but like just voice memo about life and just keep it on and keep talking to it like a friend. That, you get to the point where you're finally talking about like what's bothering you and cry, be vulnerable, share your disappointment and mentally distinguish if it's worth being disappointed or it's not, and why, if it's harder to ascertain that there's probably something more to examine. If you're like, yeah, this is really shitty, but it's not the end of the world. Why am I feeling like it's the end of the world? That's the thing you have to examine. Because emotional health is equally as important as all the other pillars. And for optimal emotional health, it is equally as important to laugh as to cry and to be happy and to be passionate as it is to be uninspired. You have to experience the depth of the all the emotions, and you have to be okay with the roller coaster ride. Because when we first feel this inclination of I don't feel okay, I'm depressed or whatever, you go to a doctor and they say, "Oh yeah, so common. Take this medication." I get it. You're going to the doctor to help yourself and you don't feel good and you're trying all the things and you're not getting the results. So you go to the doctor to take the medication, but you have to understand that that medication is only a band-aid for you to explore the deeper issues to get yourself to the point where you feel relatively normal and energetic and strong to explore the issues that you need to examine, because you must experience the levels of discomfort that are arising within you, because those are the opportunities to heal the unmet needs that you have been gimping along on. It can be scary because no one is going to understand your journey ever. It is going to be completely up to you to validate yourself and to say, this is my normal. This has been my normal. This actually isn't normal, but I've been pretending like it is because I'm operating under an old construct of what was acceptable at whatever time that I picked this up. And by the way, guys, this is not just like, oh, like inner child stuff, like stuff from when you were a kid. This is stuff when you're in your 20s. This is stuff, when you're in your 30s. This is stuff now. So We have to keep examining. We have to keep combing. It is not other people's job to live your life. It is not other people's job to validate your life. They cannot validate your experience enough. That's where this movie, the substance came in perfectly with this movie because it was all about, searching for this external validation in spite of where you currently are in yourself. And just a funny story, it's actually not funny, it's terrible. But I remember when I first moved into the city, I was living in Murray Hill and they opened an Equinox. And I had played rugby with one of the sales people. And she's like, come here, I'll give you a deal, whatever. And I went and I belonged to Equinox and I loved it. I love luxury. And I was working out and I was taking this class in this huge studio overlooking park at 33rd and with huge ceiling to floor windows, very cool. It was when Fergie's Big Girls Don't Cry was popular and we were like stretching to that song. And I'm like, oh, I'm so cool. And it's crazy. This is totally crazy. But I had this vision of like, I need to be super skinny. It was like super skinny and Ferraris. That needs to be my life. And the only way I'm going to get this super skinny Ferrari vibe is by taking Adderall. And when I tell you, like, that was the beginning to the end, that was the beginning of driving myself into the ground to the point where I mentioned I got super sick and my life changed forever. And it was chasing this external validation of model thin and Ferraris. Like, no other option. What a joke. No other way to be cool. I don't know. So I'm not saying that you can't chase the dream. You can't have desires to want to be to want to look a certain way. I get it. But not at the expense of yourself. Not at the expense of yourself. The fact that I went and I took Adderall and I knew because in college, the psychiatrist at my school, my college was fired for over prescribing Adderall from like 2000 to 2010 and just it worked. But at the time it was like I kept taking it. 30 milligrams extended release, being prescribed this by a doctor, maintained my weight. But then it was like I knew that it was eating at my soul. It felt like every time I took a pill of Adderall, there was a part of my soul that died. And that's essentially what the movie The Substance is about, which is just, plays all into this. But you can't look to the external in spite of where you currently are. You can't override where you currently are. You have to build up the juices and the guts and the generative functions of the human body. We can't override this shit, guys. That's why I like Ozempic, and I get it. If you go to a doctor and the doctor, you're trying to take care of yourself, trying to get shit under control, good, do it. But just understand that that's not the long-term solution. We have to build from within. And that's what these concepts are about. So I felt like back in the day when I first started feeling uninspired, unmotivated, depressed, whatever you want to call it, it was just this feeling of not being able to express myself and not being able to be free in the level of expression that I knew I wanted to exude. It was like I would sit down to my journal and I would go to write and I have nothing to fucking say. And, it's comes from a place of what is okay to experience and what is okay to not experience on a feeling level. Are you feeling in a box that was created for you based on external validation? And that's the emotional energetics piece. Emotions make us human. We have an emotional need that makes us human. We have an emotional need that when it's unattended to, it turns us into monsters. These are the notes that I took after the substance, actually. We have an emotional need that makes us feel separate. And that separateness creates greed and ego. And there's an emotional need from that place for acceptance and approval and appreciation. But that acceptance, that approval, that appreciation is only going to come from your original feeling of who you are. And it can be blocked because you can be like really numb. So that's why we really have to work from the inside out. We're talking about the engine, we're talking about the physical, we're talking about the mental, we're in the emotional. We need to work from the inside out. It's like warming up to have sex. You need foreplay to have good sex. Unless you're just a fucking mess and you're just like, whoring it out, which I get it. But like, let's take responsibility, reel it back in, grow it from the inside out. The frequencies of the emotional need that makes us feel separate, that requires us to seek external validation and operate from a place of greed and ego, those frequencies of fear all occur on the same level in our body. They manifest physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, astrally, in our dreams, everywhere. You cannot escape them. So when you want to address that, you have to look at the part of yourself where you feel ugly, like you don't want anyone to see it. Where is the part of you that you refuse to love, that you refuse to accept, that you refuse to condone? I don't really want to go into shadow work because I think that this is like the basis of what shadow work is all about. But I, you know, feel like shadow work is like a hyper spiritualized way of, I don't know, like looking at, like trying to do like a exercise of healing that's not whatever. But basically you want to look at the part that refuses to be seen. And where does it manifest physically or mentally? And examine the emotions around where it's manifesting because it's manifesting somewhere. Like the darkest levels of the psyche, they exist. I applaud you if you're going through life and like, no, I don't, I've never experienced that. Like, really? Good for you. I still haven't figured out how to not experience it, but maybe it's my journey and this is my journey and that's yours. I'm not condoning the idea that you need to be in pain all the time to live a good life. And I'm still trying to figure out like, is there a level of suffering required for everyone in order to live a fulfilled, meaningful life experience? And I would say probably not. It's not my life experience. I don't want to glorify pain, but if I hadn't experienced it, then I wouldn't be here creating this content right now. I also am not sure that, like, whatever, that was just my journey. But what I'm saying is that I have experienced the darkest levels of the psyche, and they manifest on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic realm. And I think that with AI, we're going to see like just how ugly that can get. And it can get scary. So the reason that I mention this is because just know you're not alone. You're not crazy. It does exist. The darkest levels of the psyche exists, and you can tuck them away and compartmentalize them. And hopefully you don't have to get to the point where you're so imbalanced that you experience the darkest levels of the psyche, but they are there. And just as you have all of the great, exuberant, like, if you want to call it manic versus depressive, like there's a spectrum. So I guess the goal is to sort of stay like in the middle, riding high, but not too high. That's kind of the goal. What is the darkest thoughts, feelings, emotions, fears that you're willing to shine the light on? What is the darkest you're willing to see? We are on this planet in a simulated experience that is created by you and God, and it's otherwise known as consciousness. What are you willing to see? What are you not willing to see? And this is where I'm going to cut it short. And this is where we're going to talk about spirituality next week. So I just want to say, like, no matter how scary it gets, it can always get scarier if you are not taking care of yourself on the fundamental levels, guys. It, I'm really not trying to instill fear, but like, where the fuck are we? Hello, wake up. Take care of yourself. Look at the things that need to be looked at. Consistently comb through your shit, through your feelings. Tend to yourself on the physical, mental, and emotional levels so that you can be clean. This is the work that's required right now. So I love you. I'll talk to you next week in the spiritual episode later.